for employment security. In this particular lecture, we shall move ahead. We shall discuss the Employee State Insurance Act and various provisions with regards to it. Employee State Insurance Act 1948 deals with various benefits to be provided to the employees. This act is something which is applicable to all the factories, establishments running with power and employing 20 or more workers. Employees in these concerns are those whose wages do not exceed 21,000 per month and are eligible for benefit under this act. The benefits that are given as per the Employee State Insurance Act 1948 includes the following that is given on the screen, which includes the sickness benefit, maternity benefit, disablement benefits, dependent benefits, medical benefits. Let us see, look at them one by one. The first is sickness benefits. Employees insured are entitled to get cash benefits for a maximum duration of 91 days and 91 days within a year under this benefit. You get benefits with regards to sickness allowances. Maternity benefit, wherein the insured women are entitled to get the benefit of maternity leave for a period of 26 weeks, provided she has worked for more than 80 days in the past 12 months in the same establishment. Maternity benefit, wherein a woman who's insured is eligible to get a maternity leave for 26 weeks. But that again comes with certain conditions. It has to be that she has worked for a minimum duration of 80 days, minimum term of 80 days in the last 1 year, that is 12 months, and that too with the same establishment, same organization. She's also entitled to full pay wages during the absence of work. When she avails that maternity leave, she's entitled to get her full paid wages. Then we have disablement related benefits. Disablement benefits, wherein an insured employee, whether facing his disability, rather partial disablement, temporary, or permanent nature, this could be as a result of employment injury or with regards to occupation that he has followed, is entitled to certain cash benefits. Then we have dependent benefit, wherein if an insured employee dies while on duty hours, when he was on duty, unfortunately the employee passes away, his dependents are entitled to compensation under the act as periodical payments are provided to them. Certain amounts are continuously paid to them. To add to this, there are certain facts that the employee's immediate kin, could be the son, could be the daughter, they're also entitled to a job in the organization, employment benefits. Then we have medical benefits, wherein medical benefit is provided to the employees, not just to the employees, but his family members as well. Hospital charges, medical treatments, the charges related to regular checkups, annual checkup charges that we call, are all included in that medical benefit. Then welfare benefits. The first in welfare benefits includes the canteen facilities. You could say canteen facilities are something which are basic requirements as far as the employees are concerned. Section 46 of the Factories Act 1948 imposes a legal or statutory obligation, a legal compliance, that there should be canteen facilities in a factory, or to be specific, any factory which employs more than 250 employees, a proper canteen facility not just for the name's sake, but also in accordance to the standards that are laid down, wherein the food has to be provided at reasonable cost. The intention of running a canteen facility in the factory premises should be for the welfare of the employees and not for the intention of making profit for it. Hence, it is necessary that the food is served at a reasonable cost, but should not be served free as well, except in certain cases like occasions. There is some festival or a puja ceremony that is happening, festivals like Diwali and so on. Some companies also provide lunch rooms to the employees. Then we have consumer societies, large companies that are located far away from the city. The cooperative credit societies provides loan facilities at reasonable terms and conditions to the employees. And normally we see that the rate of interest that is available and given to them are lower as compared to that the banks provide. Some organizations provides loan to the employees directly, whereas others encourage them to form cooperative society with the aim to provide self-help instead of depending on money lenders. There are some organizations which provide directly to the employees, loans directly to the employees. Well, some do encourage them to form credit cooperative society, so that not they are not dependent on any money lenders as such. Then we have housing facilities, wherein some organizations provide quarters near the factories, and that too is provided cheap, and decent housing facilities are provided to the employees. Like you have BARC, which provides housing facilities to the employees, quarters to the employees. You have Air India, which provides quarters to the employees at Air India Colony, Kalina. You have the Indian Institute of Technology, that is IIT Bombay, which provides quarters to the employees. There are many organizations which provide quarter facilities to the employees. They also arrange for housing loan for the employees so as to encourage them to construct their own houses. Then we have the concept of legal aid, wherein legal assistance is provided to employees whenever required. And this is normally done through a battery of company lawyers or other lawyers that are available, providing them with the necessary legal aid. Then we move on to the next point, which is about employee counseling. Employees are provided counseling services by the employers on matters relating to personal as well as professional things, that is through company counselors. We might have different aspects of the employees which relates to his professional growth or personal issues. The employer provides counseling services by the mechanism of company counselor that is there. This also helps in improving the productivity, the motivational level of the employees. It helps the employee to remain stress free, reduces his absenteeism levels as well, the frequency of remaining absent or reducing employee turnover. Then we have welfare organizations and welfare officers. Welfare officers are appointed to provide welfare facilities to the employees in order to see to it that the workers are not being exploited. They are being provided all those welfare aspects that the organization is entitled to provide its employees with, to see to it that all of these schemes are implemented properly. We have welfare officers in place to ensure that welfare facilities are provided to the employees. Then we have the concept of holiday homes, wherein some organizations have their own holiday homes. To name someone, we call a country club, having holiday homes at hill stations, health resorts, other centers, wherein they do charge low charges for accommodation. Country club has its membership schemes, which attracts the customers towards them. The strategy used, the objective behind this is to motivate the employees to use this facility, to relax, to ensure that you're enjoying a vacation, a happy time with your family. something which acts as a stress buster for them. Then we have educational facilities. Educational facilities are provided by the organization to the employees and to the family. It is not just about providing educational loans or educational facilities to the kin or kids of the employer. The employees are also motivated to pursue higher studies, enhance the skill. The benefits also covers their family. It includes free fees reimbursement, building schools, hostel fees, colleges, providing grant in aid to other schools, which have majority schools of children of employees, majority student of children of employees. They provide libraries and reading rooms for the employees as well. Then we have transportation, wherein conveyance facilities provided to the employees from resident to home. I mean, residence to the company, from the home to the company, and also for outdoor meetings. Many companies, rather than paying for the conveyance expenses from the home to the company, do offer transportation facilities. They have the buses or pickup vehicle, which picks the employee from the residence to the place where the employee is working, organization. When you visit some other places for the professional works, meeting, you're paid for that. That is about the transport facilities that you have. So we'll looked into various aspects of welfare facilities, wherein we had canteen facilities, customer societies, cooperative credit society, housing facilities being given to the employees, that is, which included quarter facilities and so on, quarters wherein the employees could reside with the family, legal aid being given, proper counseling given to the employees, appointment of welfare officers and welfare organizations that we have, holiday homes wherein the employee could relax with the family, educational facilities being extended, and transportation. Now let us have a look at the concept of pay structure. Pay structure is also referred to as salary structure. It means various levels of pay that exist from different job categories. You have different job categories within an organization, and the level of pay within the job categories differ. A pay structure creates a logical design framework that facilitates the fixation of equitable and fair employee compensation. You're giving something which is equitable pay, equal pay in a particular category. You're paying the employee a fair compensation. The main objective of developing a pay structure is to achieve an effective differentiation of pay structure based on knowledge, abilities, skills, performance, and productivity of the employee. You're enabled to pay, you're enabled to create a pay structure wherein you're paying the employee on the basis of the knowledge capacity that the employee has, the abilities of the employee, the skill levels, his performance related to an organization, and his contribution to the productivity of the organization. While framing the pay structure, normally what the organization does, it considers the job evaluation report, considers it with the conditions that are prevalent in the job market. It is something which helps to determine the promotion of the employees. Every organization must have a succession plan in place. If one of the employee retires or moves on, who will take his place? On the basis of the compensation policy and philosophy that exist, the organization decides the type of pay structure that is followed in the organization. When we say pay structure, it indicates the rate of pay for different jobs, the pay range for jobs which are grouped on the basis of grades. It provides pay progression through performance competence based on the skill, their contribution to a particular job. It establishes logic and a proper framework which the functioning can be judged, the contribution can be judged. It should be within the equitable, consistent, and fair reward policies that can be implemented within an organization. Now, let us consider the factors necessary for a sound pay structure. A sound pay structure is very much essential for an effective compensation management within an organization. This is something which improves the employee satisfaction, commitment, it helps motivate the employee, and overall performance of the employee improves as well. The factors that have to be considered to ensure that we have a sound pay structure includes the first point that we have over here, which is alignment with the business objective and needs. When we are implementing a sound pay structure, a good pay structure, it should be in accordance with the objectives of the organization, as per the needs of the organization. Considering the objectives of the organization is important while determining the pay structure of the employees. The objectives are capable of providing directions to the entire business. It also acts as a guide for the pay decisions of the organization. Every organization has certain goals, intention, its needs, the purpose for which it functions. An organization may have specific objectives with relation to profit, customer satisfaction, an ideal expansion program. Different pay structure will be ideal for accomplishing various needs and objectives of the organization. Meaning, any pay structure that you devise, you need to devise it as per the business objectives, the goals, the requirements, and the needs of the organization. Then we have a second point, that is internal equity. A sound pay structure ensures equity in determination of pay levels of the employee. When you have a good and efficient pay structure, there exists fairness and equity with regards to pay level of the employees. When you have employees who are doing similar jobs, the nature of jobs performed by the employees are similar, there should be equal pay for them. There must be an objective evaluation with regards to the duties performed, the responsibilities shouldered by them, difficulty aspects related to a job, and other aspects that are concerned with a job, so that we are in a position to ensure, after studying various aspects related to a job, in order to achieve genuine equity in pay scale, we're in a position to achieve equity with regards to pay scale. Various aspects like merit, that is, after studying the nature of the job, we access the difficulty level, the skill, the competence, everything related to a job. We study the merit. There are other aspects like seniority with regards to a job, the abilities, skills, and competence of the employees. All those aspects should be taken into consideration. There should not be any discrimination based on the gender, whether it is a male employee or a female employee. Which caste does he belong to? Whether he belongs to the higher caste, lower caste, whatsoever. The religion followed by the employees, whether he's a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatsoever, which region he comes from. These are factors which should have no say while determining the pay structure, pay scale. Positive factors which contribute to the growth of the organization, which includes your merit, your skills, your abilities, your talents, your competencies. All those factors should be considered while fixing pay scale. It is basically the worth of the employee or the worth of the job that should be the only factor that should be considered while deciding the pay level and the grades. How important is an employee for the organization? What does he bring to the organization? Then we have external equity. To ensure the internal equity in determining the pay structure, the organization should also ensure that there is external equity in pay. What is external equity? When I'm working within a particular organization, I'm also aware that the another employee who's working in this another organization doing the same kind of a job, how much he or she is paid off. That is, I do compare myself with a friend of mine or a relative of mine or someone else who's working on the same kind of a job in another organization. If I do feel that I'm being paid more than the other person in this doing the same nature of work, I'm happy. I'm motivated. But on the other hand, if I feel that I'm paid far less than the employee doing the same kind of job somewhere else, I'm paid far less in comparison, that demotivates me. It ensures that the employee pay levels are comparable with those of the employees in similar jobs in similar organizations or other organizations. Organizations usually conduct salary surveys to pay or to identify the pay levels of industry and other competing firms. Pay parity with other organizations is something which helps me to retain, to attract, to motivate the existing or talented employees. In order to achieve the external, that is external equity, to attract best talents with high pay is not the only criteria. It is not just that I offer high pay and the best talents would be attracted. There are several other factors as well which needs to be considered, which could be non-monetary benefits as well. Then we have reward for the desired performance and behavior. Reward for the desired performance and behavior as our next point. Pay levels should be fixed in such a way that the employees are rewarded for the targeted performance. They're rewarded for suitable behavior. You give a certain target to the employees, and if the employee achieves that particular target, if you have achieved the targeted performance levels, or his behavior is something which has added to the organization, it has benefited the organization, he should be rewarded for that. He should benefit for that. They should be capable of sustaining the employee's willingness to continue the same performance and behavior. Some incentives to ensure that the employee who has given the desired level of performance, who set a standard, who's contributed with a good natured behavior, an incentive to ensure that he continues such behavior. There must be an inbuilt incentive available in the pay scale so as to encourage to motivate high performance, to ensure that he continues the high involvement and commitment within the organization, to build a sense of motivation within an employee. So we have reward for desired performance and behavior. Then we have legal compliance. The pay structure must be in legal compliance, that is with the in compliance as per the laws and regulations that exist in our country. We have a set of rules, regulation, and laws within our country, and the pay structure should be in accordance to that. You cannot have a pay structure against the laws and regulations of the country. It is not just that you have a law as per the regulations within a country. It is also necessary that we implement the recommendations of various statutory wage boards in a time-bound manner. It is implemented properly. We have various laws, like we have the Minimum Wages Act 1948, Industrial Dispute Act 1947. We have Payment of Wages Act 1936. We have Equal Remuneration Act 1976. These are just some of the laws that we have regarding the employees. There are many such laws that have been framed for the welfare of the employees and employers as well. All such laws should be followed by the organization. It should not go against what the law says. The pay structure should accept the changes according to the time. If the rules or regulations laid down by the government changes, if the government has made any changes with regards to any of its rules and regulations, it should be adapted by the organization. It should be flexible in nature. Then we have our next point, which is reconciling individual and the organizational interests. When the employees work in an organization, it is understood that they are working efficiently. They'll work in a systematic manner, an efficient manner, to ensure that they work as per the goals of the organization. They'll work to meet the needs of the organization. But as employees, they do have their individual interest as well. So we have two different concepts. One is the individual interest, and other being the interest of the organization or the goals of the organization. Is working efficiently to see to it that the organizational interests are met. It is also the responsibility of the organization to ensure safeguarding the individual interest as well. So we now have a scenario of reconciling individual and organizational interests. The pay structure should serve the interests of the individual and of the organization as well. The interests of both the parties, the individual as well as the organization, should be met. There must be due regard, respect for long-term interest while fixing the pay scale of the employees. The pay fixation should be kept. The pay fixation should be made keeping the long-term interest in mind. The pay structure should attract the employees at a reasonable cost to the organization. The cost incurred should not be more. In order to reduce the financial burden that is borne by the organization, a good portion of the employees' pay will be linked to their performance, wherein if you perform better, if you perform efficiently, something which would help increase the productivity within the organization, if you contribute efficiently, systematically, and in a good amount to the productivity of the organization, if your contribution is good towards productivity, you are rewarded handsomely. And if there is not much the overall organizational productivity, there might be a dip or decrease in the pay that is given to him. So what the organizations do is to reduce the financial burden or the cost borne by the organization. They link the performance of the employee, they link the pay that the employees are given to the performance and productivity aspects. This would help reduce the cost borne by the organization. So with regards to factors that we consider for a sound pay structure, we focused on alignment of the business objectives and needs, aligning a pay structure as per the requirements of the organization, needs of the organization. We looked into the concept of internal and external equity, a reward for the desired performance as well. We mentioned that the pay structure should comply as per the legal requirements that is prevalent within the country, and reconciling the individual interests with that of the organization interests. In the next lecture, we'll see the aspects regarding designing of a compensation system. All the aspects like analysis of a job, evaluation of the nature of job, developing a sound pay structure, survey of wages and salaries, pricing of the job, compensation revision and control. So that is it with regards to today's lecture. We'll stop here.